Shoots and Scores Hockey Talk, where we talk everything hockey. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chris.
All right, guys, let's go. Now, the first topic for discussion tonight is Eastern Conference playoffs. The standings as they are now, only two teams have allowed more goals than they scored that are in the playoffs. Who do you think those teams are? Well, in the West, it's the Wild. They're at a negative 12. And in the East, it's Montreal. Negative 22 goals. So we're going to stick with the East and talk about these matchups. Now, Mike, we have the Leafs versus the Senators, Tampa Bay versus Florida, Carolina versus the Devils, and Washington versus maybe Montreal, maybe Columbus. I would have said last week, Montreal for sure. Now I'm starting to have second thoughts. Mike, what do you think?
So I think Montreal's still going to get in. I hate to say it, but Carolina decided to scratch a lot of guys tonight. So if they can't get a point out of this game, then they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. So I think they're still going to squeak in. It's good to see the race right to the end, though. But and I mean, if they don't get a point tonight, it's going to be pretty interesting tomorrow night with Columbus playing their final game of the season. So as far as the matchups go for the East, for the first round, I think Washington is going to win that series regardless of who they play. Do you want me to predict games or just winners? Or
No, you can go ahead and predict the amount of games, sure, if you want. Go ahead.
I'll say Washington in 6 over whoever they play. Then we've got Tampa and Florida. I really, really want to say Florida, but man, they've really looked like garbage last 2-3 weeks. So, and I know they've rested a lot of guys. I know they've got guys that are hurt. There's still no real indication of when Matt Tkachuk is going to play for sure. So, I'm going to pick Tampa to win this one. I think 7 games. I really want Florida to win. However, I think Tampa's going to win just based off of how Florida's played lately. Then we have Toronto and Ottawa, and you'll be happy to hear that I think the Leafs are going to win. So we'll say Toronto in 6 games for that one. And the other matchup is Carolina and New Jersey. I think Carolina's going to win that probably in 5. I really don't think New Jersey is going to have much chance in this series. And it's not that I don't think the Devils are good, but they've got too many guys that are either hurt or just coming back. And I mean, the goaltending really hasn't been good. Hamilton's back to play tonight, so at least he's going to get a game in. But I think Carolina's going to take that one as well.
All right, Chris, what do your analytics tell you about these matchups?
Washington, of course.
Washington. Well, analytically speaking, Montreal, even if they make it in, they don't even deserve to be in. I think Columbus is a better team overall.
Which is why I said that Montreal was a minus 22 on their scored goals against.
Yeah, no, Columbus definitely, I think, is a better team overall than Montreal. But yeah, everything points towards Montreal win likely tonight. If it's Montreal, yes, Washington definitely be favorites in that type of series. If Columbus somehow makes it in, though, I'm not sold on an easy Washington victory there. So put me for Washington against Montreal, but I'll throw in my hat in for Columbus over Washington in a first round matchup there.
Do you want to say how many games? You don't have to, but if you do.
7 if it's Columbus, and probably 5 against Montreal.
Okay.
5 for Montreal. Devils and Canes. Yeah, the Devils, analytically wise, the last few months have really slipped without Hughes, and I see the 5-on-5 scoring is one of the worst in the league in the last few months. They've really been rolling on their power play and only on their power play. Like I said before, this is not Carolina's year. This is a retool year. They're still missing that top scorer. They're still relying on Brett Burns, who's 40 years old, to play 25 minutes a game. But I think they still have enough talent here that they'll get past the Devils in probably 5 or 6, similar to what Mike says. Scoring wise, the games might look close, but I think Carolina should have the edge here. The Battle of Ontario.
Right. Something I'm very excited to see.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, one of the analytics out there about expected goals and or scoring goals and getting out chance, the Maple Leafs are in their quadrant of their own, basically saying that they're getting out chanced every game, which means the ice is tilted in the opposition, but they're outscoring. They're still scoring because they've got a lot of elite talent, so they're scoring their way out of it. Ottawa is in the out chance and outscoring zone, but barely. This probably comes down to you really believe in Ullmark. Do you really think he is him, right? He shared the load in previous years in Boston. Now he's the guy there. If you believe in Ullmark, yeah, Ottawa could beat Toronto, but I'm going to go with the Leafs. Probably in 7 games. I think it's going to be a very good series. Is that all of them? Washington? Oh, Florida. Analytics wise and what I see, the Lightning to me are the best team in the East. And I fully expect them to beat Florida, who again, Tkachuk, a bunch of guys who are hurt or coming back from injuries. Vasilevsky looks like the Vasilevsky who's won a couple of cups.
He does.
I'm going with Tampa, and it could be 4 or 5 games. It could be pretty quick for Florida.
So you two are pretty much agreeing on everything, but you're saying potentially if Columbus gets in, they could beat Washington.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that could be the upset, because I was going to ask you about upsets on that side. That would definitely be an upset.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think if any other team won, would it really be an upset? Like if New Jersey won, would it really be an upset?
No.
Maybe.
The other ones they're probably, you play 10 series, it's probably 6-4, maybe 7-3 in some of them, but I feel pretty confident though on Tampa. Spoiler alert, I think Tampa's going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right. Well, you're supposed to say that for later on, but that's okay. All right. Let's go on to our second question. Now, second question, of course, is about the Western Conference picture. Now, we're gonna get into this Western Conference, and I will say that at least now in the Western Conference, the matchups have all been decided. So, our series, we have the Jets versus the Blues, which I think is very interesting. Dallas versus the Avalanche. I can't imagine this series going on. It's crazy how you're going to lose one of these teams. The Golden Knights versus the Wild. And, of course, the Kings versus the Edmonton Oilers. Chris, what do your analytics tell you for these matchups?
Yeah, so before I get into that, I'll just say that I think there's 3 injuries that are really going to make my decision easier on who to pick. The first one was, of course, Hughes for the Devils. He's out. I think that's a big disadvantage for them. In my mind, the second, or maybe tied for second, if we're talking about the Oilers versus the Kings, is Ekholm being out. They don't make the Stanley Cup Finals last year without him. The trade when they made that trade last year, that was exactly what they needed. He is their big horse back there. Their goaltending, I think Skinner's probably one of the worst goalies in the league, and he probably helps try to keep them on track. I think it comes down to if the Kings can't beat this Oilers team with all their injuries or guys coming back from injuries or Kane maybe coming back, not playing all year, this is the Kings' time to beat them. If they can't do it this time, they're never going to beat the Oilers as long as Draisaitl and McDavid's on that team, right? So, and I believe when I checked the stats there, I think the Kings are one of 2 teams that have given up less than 200 goals this year. I think that's right? The Kings and someone else.
I was looking at that just the other day, and I'm going to be honest with you, I forget now.
Yeah, I think the Kings and Jets have both given up less than 200 goals. So yeah, this is Kemper has done very well since the trade from Washington, and I'd say the Kings probably in 6 in the series, and again mostly because of Ekholm's injury. The next series, I think, is I said, number 2B is Miro Heiskanen being out. The last few months have not been kind to the Dallas Stars. They're getting outshot regularly. I've got Oettinger in my hockey pools, and I've looked and seen he's stopping 34, 50, 44 shots a game. And I'm like, and I mentioned before when they got Rattanen, they already have enough offense. They needed defense, right? And adding more offense, and you can see it now, right? They're struggling back there. And after Miro, there's some holes in the Dallas Stars defensive core. They definitely got the better goaltender between Ottinger and Mackenzie Blackwood. But overall, I'm definitely going with the Avalanche, probably in 6 or 7 games too. Third one, what the Jets and the Blues.
This could be
The
interesting.
Blues have been really rolling in the second half. The question now comes, can they continue to do it? I know when they cup, they kind of kept on running that momentum all the way through. But I believe the Jets are probably going to win this one. So many first round, one and done for the Jets organization, and Connor Hellebuck's reputation as being the best goalie in the world right now. I think this is the year they actually get past the first round. Won't commit to anything past that, but I believe this will be the time that they'll take on the Blues and win that. But I will say 7 games. I think they need to go through those struggles and show some heart on that team.
And the Golden Knights and the Wild?
The Golden Knights and the Wild. So, yeah, this is probably the biggest analytic wise between two teams. But I would mention that the Wild, though, they've lost. Kiprusoff was out for a couple of months, and Eriksson Ek was out for a while. They've had some injuries, so they're better than what the analytics show as a total for the year. But the Knights seem to be built for the playoffs. They seem to be, this is what they're for. They've got the players, they've got the size, their defense is big. This is what they're built for, and I expected them to win in probably 5 games, because I'd say the Wild's goaltending might be one of the weaknesses on that in that group. So I'd say Vegas in 5. So yeah, I don't see really any upsets on this side of the Western Conference.
Okay.
Unless you believe the Stars are favorite, but I don't think so without Heiskanen.
Well, I wouldn't even consider that an upset, really, no matter which way it would go, to be honest with you. Now, Mike, we're going to go to you for the Western Conference, but I have to tell our audience, if they do or do not remember, you were 8 for 8 last year in the first round of our playoffs. No pressure, but what do you think about the Western Conference this year?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't want to say last year was easier to pick, but I definitely feel like last year was easier to pick the first round matchups than this year. So that being said, talking about the Oilers and the Kings, like I totally agree with Bagel here on this series. And I never would have said this before the season, as I didn't even see the Kings making the playoffs, and I figured the Oilers were going to be President's Trophy contenders. But I mean, the goaltending has not been good in Edmonton. They've got to go. They've got to go with Skinner. But I think that if he puts out a couple bad games right off the get go, they might have to make a change. So the Draisaitl and McDavid injuries. I mean, I know they're coming back. However, they're not. They can't be 100%. I mean, if they have already missed this much time, Ekholm being out too, like Chris said, he's the rock back there, and they don't have another defenseman that can play his style, where you can chip in a little bit of offense and play a good physical defensive game. So I'm gonna pick the Kings in 7 in this. I still think it's gonna be a longer series. I think the Oilers will drag this out. The main thing that you would have noticed is that the Oilers have not gotten much secondary scoring, especially with McDavid and Draisaitl out of the lineup. Like, their offense is non-existent. So if the Kings can remotely keep these guys in check, they should win this series. And the Kings play a physical game. They've got some physical guys on the team. They play well defensively. So, yeah, we'll go with the Kings in 7. Then we've got the Knights and the Wild. So I think that in this series, I think Vegas is fairly well rested. Some of their guys got a little bit of rest going down the stretch for the most part. Minnesota did get Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek back, which gave them a little bit of jolt there the last few games. But with that being said, Vegas has been consistent throughout the whole year, where Minnesota had a great start, and then as soon as Kaprizov got hurt, they had a rough go for a while. So I think Vegas wins this series 5-6 games. I think it's gonna be fairly quick. So I'll say 5. Um, then we've got St. Louis against Winnipeg. As Chris said, Winnipeg looks like they're a team that's better built going into the playoffs this year. So I agree with the prediction of them winning in 5 games, or sorry, 7 games. St. Louis is going to give them a good battle, I believe. They've got good depth throughout the lineup. They Snuggerud has come up. He's played well on one of the scoring lines, so got a little bit of an extra offensive player down the stretch. So I think it's going to be a close series. But ultimately, I think Winnipeg's going to win this. I don't think Hellebuck is going to lose in the first round this year. Then we've got what's our other matchup here?
Dallas versus the Avalanche.
And Dallas, yeah. So preseason, I had Dallas going to the Stanley Cup final. However, they have been kind of lackluster, I guess, since the. I mean, Rantanen's been a good pickup, but he hasn't been the Colorado Mikko Rantanen. So took a little while for him to gel with Robertson and Hintz. They've played a little bit better lately. They've got Tyler Seguin coming back tonight. So, it's going to be a close series. Dallas has the edge in nets, obviously. Defense, without Heiskanen playing, gives Colorado the edge. The forward lines, I think, are pretty balanced between the two teams. Maybe a slight edge to Dallas with the depth. But Colorado has been getting production out of some of their depth guys. So one of the keys is Valerie Nichushkin going to get through the playoffs without going off the rails, I guess. So, yeah, this is probably going to be one of the best series in the playoffs. I expect this to be a lot of back and forth. So I will pick Colorado in 7 on this. And it's when I talk about the best series in the playoffs in the West, I think it's going to be this one. And in the East, I believe it's going to be the Tampa, Florida series. So those are my 2 picks for the best series. Yeah, for the first round anyways.
Okay, good. Now, we're going to go on to our third topic here. Now, we know your guys' picks for the first round. You've just told us. But I want to get a little bit deeper. I want to know who you think is going to make it to the Final 4. So the last 2 in each conference. Because if you're in a hockey pool and you can get 3 of those 4 teams right, you're probably winning the hockey pool. So, Chris, what do you think? Who do you think, out of the 2 conferences, who do you think the 2 final teams are going to be from each conference?
All right, in the East, it'll be Carolina and Tampa, with Tampa moving on from that. And then on the other side, Vegas and Colorado moving on.
Mike, I mean, Bagel said that with quite a bit of authority.
It's hard to disagree with that. I expect the exact same thing. Tampa to play Carolina and win that series as well. And in the West, Colorado and Vegas. And I think Colorado is probably going to win that series also, just because they've got a little bit more. I don't know. They've just looked so good, and nobody can match Cale Makar what he does. So Those are my final four picks as well. I'd like to have said something different. I was hoping Chris would have picked something.
Boring.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's what I say as well.
So you two are both on the exact same page here. That's,
Well,
you
I
know,
think the only one that we differed on was the Washington series, where I think Washington is going to win against whichever team they play in the first round, whereas Chris thinks Columbus can take them out. So other than that, yeah, we're pretty much on the same page here.
okay. Well, I want to move on to the next topic. Now, hear me out, guys. Okay. I thought long and hard about this. It took me many hours to come up with this. You tell me if I'm crazy. The Winnipeg Jets have the best record in the league, right? And with one game left, they are very impressive 55, 22, and 4. The goal difference for the Jets is the best in the league as well. They've scored 85 more goals than they have allowed. There's one other team with 75, and nobody else is even close. Shouldn't the Winnipeg Jets be the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year? I mean, neither one of you guys are even picking them to get to the Final Four. What's going on here?
Well, for me, I find that the other teams, when if we're talking about the West, Colorado and Vegas, I find that the experience that they have for already being past the first round, second round, third round, they both won Stanley Cups in the last what 4 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, the experience that they have already going in is, I think, a huge advantage for them. And I think their lineups are both constructed so well that there hasn't been a lot of fluctuation with as far as production goes. Winnipeg, I find, is maybe a little bit more of a top heavy team with Scheifele and Connor, whereas the other teams have a little bit better scoring throughout the lineup. No, and I'm not saying that Winnipeg isn't scoring goals, because obviously they are with their goal differential, but Hellebuck makes a huge difference when it comes to that. So, and as far as production from the defensive end, I think that Vegas has a little bit of an edge with Theodore, Pietrangelo, and Hannafin. Um, then you got Colorado with Makar, Taves, Girard, whereas Winnipeg, it's Morrissey and Pionk. Not a whole lot other than that. So I think that that's going to help those other teams. So, and this is why I picked those two teams over the Jets, is a little bit more consistency throughout the lineup.
And who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup, Mike?
If I'm picking today, I say Colorado, and Colorado over Tampa. But if that's what it turns out to be, I think that's going to be a really good series. You got McKinnon against Kucherov, so Vasilevsky clearly on the top of his game, playing much better this year than he did last year, so he's back
Yeah.
on top form. So I'll pick Colorado over Tampa. Probably 7 games. I think it's going to be a long one. And
Chris?
it could go either way. Don't get me wrong. Tampa's no slouch there. Their lineup is constructed really well also.
Chris, I mean, why aren't you picking the Jets to make the final two in the West? What's going on here? Best goal
'Cause
differential in the league. What's wrong with you?
nobody picked the Jets to win the West this year. Nobody did. I can guarantee you that. And it's all about Hellebuck, right? That's why they have that 85 differential, right? It's about him keeping the puck out of the net.
Well, they didn't just win the West; they won the whole thing.
Yeah,
Best team in the whole league.
they're a good team, but they were a good team the year before, and the year before, and they got knocked out in the first round. Not many changes, right, from this year's team compared to last year's team.
No.
But the goaltending went to another level. I knew they have some big boys, like Mike did mention Sam Berg in the back end. They got some size and strength there, but overall, no, they're great season. Hats off to them. They did a great job, But now, like, they really have to prove. Like I said, they have to win this first round. I don't. It'd be, to me, it might be a worse failure than the Leafs if they can't get out of the first round in Winnipeg, right? Because as I said, they've got a good team. I don't think they're a top end team, but they have a very good team. But it's on Hellebuck's shoulders, and I think they'll get past the first round. But then when they run into Colorado or Vegas, I guess it'd be Colorado, right, to play. Um, I I think that's where it stops because yeah, I think their season finishes there, and I can tell you right now, next year we won't be sitting here saying the Jets were the number one team again in the league. Let's put it that way.
Man, some very definite speech coming out of you there. You're so sure
That's
of
right.
yourself. So I do want to say, and I could be wrong, I didn't check into this, but I was just thinking of it this moment. I don't know if the Jets as an organization, so talking way back in the 80s, 90s, whatever, have ever got out of the second round in the playoffs. I
They've
don't think
struggled
they
to get out
ever
of the
have.
first. Yeah, they struggled to get out of the first.
They've been out of
Quite
the first,
often.
I think, a couple of times, but I don't think they've ever been out of the second.
Yeah. Oilers beat them a lot in the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oilers beat them a
The
lot.
first round, they beat them a lot. No, they've always struggled, right? They've always struggled.
Okay. Well, was there anything else that you guys wanted to add to any of this discussion before we go into our Hockey Profit segment? Did you want to mention any players or any team that you like, or are you praying for Montreal to win tomorrow, or maybe anything
No
else?
one's praying for Montreal to win.
Well,
Probably just
there's
one thing, because we always like to talk about trades and who wins trades and who loses trades. But this past summer, obviously, the Kemper for Dubois trade, which most of us kind of just scoffed at, like, oh, that's a contract dump for a contract dump. And both guys really helped those teams to where they are now, right? There's no denying that. So that's one of those win-win trades for the teams that helped both organizations get where they are today.
okay. Fair enough. Mike, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, to add on with Chris, like with that trade in particular, like you said, like it looked like they were just basically trading two bad contracts for each other, and both players stepped up, played really well. Never did I think you were going to see this out of Darcy Kemper. I mean, I don't know how he couldn't have done this in Washington when he was there. And Dubois, same thing. Like he's had several bad years in a row. For this to come out of nowhere on a team like Washington, who most of us thought would just squeak into the playoffs, it's made a huge difference. In fact, with Washington too, having Logan Thompson step up there and win like 80% of his games, so that made a big difference there as well. So yeah, just wanted to add on a little bit there to what Chris was talking about.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Strome, I'm pretty sure he got 80 points the other night.
Yeah, he did. He got a hat trick last night, and it's his best offensive season. So, and Washington's got a lot of production out of guys that you didn't think before the season would. I mean, Connor McMichael stepped up, had a very good year. Alexi Protas came out of nowhere, got over 60 points. I mean, if you told me before the season he would get 30 points, I'd say, yeah, it's probably about it. But he's played really well. The defense has been good. They got good production out of Carlson, although he's not at the level he was. Chikrin's had a good year.
Yeah, Chikrin's played well.
Yeah, so I mean, they've gotten production throughout the lineup, and I know Chris isn't a big fan of the Capitals. Analytics are against them. So, but Ovi, I think maybe the motivation to see him break Gretzky's record really got that team going. So, and I mean,
All right.
Carberry, the coach, has done a phenomenal job. I find it extremely difficult to believe that he doesn't get Coach of the Year this year. I think that's a given.
Okay.
Washington, like the Jets, are another team I expect regression for next year.
Are you sounding definite about that as well, Chris?
Oh yes, regression's coming. Regression's coming.
Well, I hate to see regression, but with 32 teams in the league and only 16 teams making the playoffs, there's going to be regression. I mean, look at Vancouver last year. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they had 110 points last year, and this year, gone.
Gone.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's go on to our Hockey Prophet segment where I say that you two are the Hockey Prophet, and we're going to find out after the first round of the playoffs. I have my timer here already, and we've got some rapid fire questions. Are you guys ready for our Hockey Prophet segment?
Ready to
Let's
go.
go.
All right. Number one, Chris. Will Ovechkin score at least 6 goals in the playoffs this year?
I will say no.
No?
No.
Okay.
He'll be out
All
in the
right.
second
No.
round, and no, he won't get 6 goals.
Okay. All right. Number two, Mike. Is there going to be a fight on the first night of the NHL playoffs this year?
Ah, boys. Sounds like the Four Nations question.
Yes. Well, I had to go back to it. It was a good one.
On the first night, well, geez, I guess it depends who's playing. That's the question. I guess it depends who's playing. Could very well
If
be
it's Ottawa, Toronto, yes. Yeah.
Ottawa, Toronto,
Yeah.
the Edmonton, LA, perhaps. I know that there's some bad blood there with the last game. So,
Mhm.
Florida, Tampa. Yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay. All right. Now, Chris, I'm giving you a hard one here. Number three.
Uh-oh.
Who will be the scoring leader after the first round of the playoffs? Yes, I know. It's a tough
I'm
one.
just trying to think of the ones I went 7 games with.
Pick Ovechkin.
Kucherov.
Yeah, Kucherov. Yeah. I think that's a good choice. Why not, right? He's leading the league, right? So why not?
Yeah.
All right. Number four, Mike. How many points will Demidov get in the playoffs this year if Montreal makes the playoffs?
I'll say 4.
4 points. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Not a big believer.
Not that I'm not a big believer. I think he's a talented player. I don't see Montreal winning if they get in, and not only that, I don't see them scoring a ton of goals. So
Right. Actually, 4 points pretty good for a rookie in the playoffs. So,
yeah,
all right, Chris, number five. Is Carolina happy with their Devils matchup in the first round?
Yes, for sure. For sure. Of course, there was no really other choices, and the only other potential team might have been the Rangers, and they would love to beat the Rangers. But yeah, no, the Devils are definitely a good choice. And again, Washington's sitting there waiting for them if everything goes through. And I think Carolina should be favorite in that one too.
Okay, and finally, number six, Mike, and I'm sure you guys will be glad when this is over with. Will the Winnipeg Jets win their first round series in 5 games?
no. St. Louis is going to give them a much better battle than that. So
Well, I wanted to ask, even though I knew you had said 7 or whatever, but the amount of love that you two are giving Winnipeg is in the toilet. It's just like toilet water.
We
Yeah,
live in a
they can't
realistic
even-
world. It's a
They can't
realistic
win in
world we
five-
live in.
They can't win in 5 games. The best record in the league, best goal differential, best goalie in the league. No way. They're not going to win shit.
I think they're a little bit too reliant on Scheifele and Connor. And I'm not that the second line isn't scoring some goals, but I think that if that line has a hard time, it's kind of a trickle down effect. I don't think that they can win a series, and I expect them to win the first series, but I don't think that they can win anything past that. Just getting production out of if they don't get production consistently out of those two guys, it's their top two players. Morrissey
Right.
kicks in on the defense, obviously, but
Isn't Velarde?
Yeah.
Is Velarde hurt again or day to day?
yeah, he's hurt. So I don't know.
Ehlers is out. So their second line
Yeah,
scoring
exactly.
is
Ehlers
in
is
jeopardy right
weak.
now.
Yeah, Ehlers is week to week. Velarde, if he comes back, I mean, he's not going to be 100%. So he's already missed I think, a week or so already. So
It's and I'm giving you guys a hard time about the Jets, but I mean I don't have a whole lot of faith either, even though they've had one hell of a year. But it's the problem is the playoffs. And I know, being a Leafs fan, that so much of it is psychological, it's not even funny.
yeah,
And like Chris said, if the Jets don't make it out of the first round, that team is going to be in disaster mode.
Yeah.
You know, and even if they make it out of the first round, well, that's better than not making it out of the first round. But I just think that over the years, everything that's happened to them last year, I mean, man, they were getting goals were being potted on them like crazy last year in the playoffs. It was crazy how many goals they were having scored against them. So anyway, we'll see what happens. You guys have your predictions out there, and we'll see how this all plays out. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or is that good for tonight?
Well, I don't foresee any like major upsets in the first round. But like I said, if there was one, it's that series, Winnipeg and St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis has played very well for the last month and a half, 2 months. So if they can take advantage of some of these injuries that the Jets have, who knows? But like I said, I don't expect the Jets to lose. But if there's a series that could be a potential upset, this could be the one.
Yeah, there's always is an upset. Like every year, there is going to be that series. But I would think if the Senators beat the Leafs, that would be considered an upset. And then, yeah, St. Louis winning would be an upset. I don't see the Devils winning as an upset. Florida wouldn't be an upset, even though analytically it would be. But it would not be matchup-wise.
Right.
Colorado losing to Dallas is not an upset.
No, it's not an upset.
Wild winning would be an upset. Even,
Yeah.
Again, I know analytics don't favor the Wild. With Kiprusoff, they were running pretty good.
Right.
But it would be considered an upset if they do come out and win that. And the Kings and Oilers win, everyone's like, oh, it's McDavid. If Oilers lose, well, that's not an upset.
Okay. All right. Well, like, share, and subscribe, folks, and let us know where we went wrong and where you disagree with our hockey prophets here. And we'll see you next week. Later.
Later.
Bye.